We got it. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome. First, huge storm outside right now. So, if power goes out and my stream abruptly cuts off, that's what happened. The power went out. So, probably hear a little bit of wind, actually. Anyway, today I want to make a new Laravel package. I haven't made a new package in a while. I think, honestly, like Blueprint was probably my last package. I really don't make a lot of packages because, you know, I normally just try to push stuff straight into core. And that's kind of the reason I'm making a package. You know, if you've made a PR and it's gotten closed, you've probably seen, you've gotten kind of the canned response from Taylor and team as far as like, hey, I don't see this to be ready to merge right now. Feel free to make your own package. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to make my own package. So what I want to call this is, we're just going to start totally fresh here. I'm just going to call this Laravel Additions. And no template. I'm not going to add it with anything. It's going to be public. Let's give a description of whip for fun. And yeah, let's go ahead and create this. Awesome. And then we're going to do... I think we're going to do this. I'm not going to, well, I do need to init, actually. Yes. Okay, let's do this. Let's go to the command line. I'm just trying to think of how I want to set this up. Let's make this full screen. Let's get out of WP static. Let's just go top level here. And let's just make, you know what I'm actually going to do? I was just talking about Blueprint. Oh, I'm hearing a lot of chat. Is like something wrong with my AV setup? No, people just saying hi. Hello, everyone. Hello, Jeffrey. Hello, Maudo? Is that right? That's a tough name. I'm sorry. Ron, what's up, man? All right. Let's do this. Let's get checkout master on Blueprint. Let's get pull everything down. And then what I'm going to do, actually, is I'm going to copy Blueprint into Laravel Additions. I might have to do -R, yeah. -R. Can I do that? Can you copy a full folder, or do you have to rsync it? I don't know. We're gonna find out. It's doing something in the background. Let's give it a minute. I probably should have killed like npm and stuff. That's kind of rough. This might take a second. We'll give it a second. While it's going, let's talk about, oh, that's not it. Let's close some things first of all. I thought I went into sleep mode. Let's shut this down. Everybody's got my to-do list. Let's do force quit on notes. Force quit. Why is QuickTime Player running? That's strange. I wonder if Ecamm Live uses QuickTime Player. That's strange. Anyway, okay. Oh look, it finished copying. Laravel Additions. Wow. Okay, I wish I could type. Let's rm-rf.get and node modules. Nothing in node modules. Oh, vendor. Yes. Okay. And then let's lsla. What do we have here? There's a lot of stuff. I'm copying the Blueprint folder because there's a lot of stuff that like this GitHub workflow files, the lint definition, the test suite, maybe upgrade notes, the logo. I mean, there's definitely things that can come out here, the pint JSON. There's definitely things that can come out, but I think I'm going to want a lot of stuff from Blueprint. So I'm not going to commit this per se, but I want to go ahead and just copy the file, and then we'll start kind of stripping it down. But there's enough in here where I think it's worthwhile to copy over. So let me rm-rf.idea. Let's do PHP. I don't think I need that PHP lint thing. Let's get rid of the upgrade. Let's get rid of the Blueprint logo, of course. All right. And then, you know what? Pint probably ignores some folders, so let's leave that for a minute. Let's get rid of stubs. I'll leave tests. All right, let's see what we have left. DS store, whatever, fine. Editor config, fine. That should be default. Get attributes. The GitHub workflow stuff, I probably want to keep. We'll go through it here in a minute. The cache, PHP unit stuff, whatever, no big deal. I could probably just remove those just for clarity. So .php unit star. Okay, and then the config, I'm gonna say, I can't envision this thing having a config. I'm gonna kill it. And then the source files. Okay, I think this is pretty good. So let's do a get init on this. And what I'm gonna do right now is just git add dot and git commit -m initial commit. Okay, there's gonna be a lot we're gonna strip out, but this at least gives us a safe starting place to start messing with this. So let's get into PHP Storm and let's make a new, oh yes, we should probably add this stuff. So let's do this. Let's do this while we're waiting. Let's copy that. We'll rename the branch. Oh no, I didn't mean to push it. Whatever, it's gonna have a weird initial state. Okay, that's fine. That's fine, we'll kill all this out and force push it, why not? New project, existing files, next. Let's paste that, Laravel additions, and let's create. And let's go in and kind of start killing some things. So let's start in the composer.json file and mess with that. I'll leave this because again, I probably want a good amount of it, the links to Packagist and all that kind of stuff. So it'll just be like a lot of search and replace in there. I'm gonna leave fixtures, but I'm gonna get rid of what's in it. I'm gonna get rid of what's in here. I'll leave the feature tests. I'll leave the unit tests. What's in test case? So this extends orchestra test bench. Setup. We don't need any of the setup environment variables. We might need some of these fixtures and stubs. Get package service providers. This seems orchestra related. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna strip this down. I'm gonna strip this down to just get package providers. And we're gonna do that. Okay, the test suite should be basic now to start. Let's go back here. We're gonna call this what it is, which is Jason McCreary Laravel additions. I'm just gonna whip this for now. It's not code generation. Let's just keyword Laravel it for now. All right, I don't know what we need, so I'm just gonna drop a lot of these. I don't need the registry and we're not doing YAML. So for right now, I'm gonna say, I think what we're gonna do is say require PHP. We'll just align this basically with Laravel 11 and higher. This is just strictly gonna make sure that you basically have to be running. You could actually run this on older versions of Laravel. Right now there's no requirement, so we'll have to kind of clean that up later. I want Pint, let's bump that to 20. I'll probably want Mockery. We don't need to support so many older versions, so let's just bump this down and let's bump this up. All right, and then I'm not gonna suggest, and we will want this. So let me think about the namespace here for a second. I think I need to start like namespacing my stuff in kind of like a me and then the thing and then what it is, right? So what I mean is like, I feel like I should probably namespace this as like JMac and then in this, you know, additions or something like that. I want to avoid using the Laravel namespace, right? I don't think there's any problem with like saying like Laravel in your package name just for visibility and clarity, but using Laravel kind of like in here, I think, you know, I know Taylor, you know, doesn't want there to be a lot of confusion. So, I mean, this is about my additions, right? It's not necessarily about Laravel per se. So like you could add a sub namespace here, like Caravel. You could add Laravel, JMac Laravel additions. I think that's implied. I mean, and we could call it the package name here. So I think I'm gonna leave it here. This feels good for now. Just thinking on that for a second. This feels good for now. Okay, and then we'll just say like additions service provider. I don't even know if we need this. I'm gonna leave it here for reference, but I don't think we need that. Test fixtures, that's fine. We left that in there. Oh, did we leave it in here? We did. Let's do this. Touch test fixtures dot get keep, because it'll kill it otherwise. Okay, let me add dot and let me get append. And let's get push dash F. Let's just keep force pushing this until it feels better. Okay, so test suite's good. Composer seems better. Now let's get into the source files. We definitely don't have all of this stuff. And we definitely don't have this stuff. And now we need to rename this to like, we need to rename this to additions. Yeah, rename additions service provider. See, additions feels weird in this case. So extends service provider, implements deferrable, that's all fine. We don't need any of these things. We don't publish a config. We don't publish stub. So there's kind of nothing in boot right now. We're not merging our config. We're not mixing in anything. We're not binding any commands for now. We're not doing any of that. So again, let's just do that. Let's dump this for now. So again, I don't think those are probably required. So really all we need in here is deferrable and the service provider itself. And then we need to change this to JMac additions. Okay, that feels better. Let's do a composer update. This should get everything we need. And then we'll run pint. And then I think it's actually where we want it to be. There's some naming things in the README and there's some weird stuff. That's fine. But it's kind of like where we need it to be, I think. So let's do vendor bin pint. I wouldn't expect this to get much. Just the test case. That's fine. So let's do get add dot. Let's do get append again. And get push dash F. Okay, cool. Let's go out and look at the repo real quick. Okay, so we got Laravel additions, we got blueprint stuff. So if we kind of click around here, we have fixtures, we have a test case, nothing else is there. We have our source file, our additions, and then we've got some stuff in here, again, issue templates and workflows. I want these, I don't want the demo probably, but I want a majority of these. These will get cleaned up, but I think for now that's fine. Okay, let's get into like what I actually want to put in here. So yeah, let's go to the README. First of all, let's just clean up a few of these. We'll just replace this with Jason McCreary Laravel-additions. Let's replace all. So it's not going to be out there anywhere, but let's just replace all. We don't have that blueprint logo. Again, I'm not worried about the rest of this. I just kind of want to highlight, like what I want to add to this. So here's what I'll do. I'll make a little to-do section, to-do, and then let's basically say like, okay, first thing I want to add, this is a combination of the stuff that the PRs in recent live streams that have gotten closed, as well as some PRs that I kind of just never made. There's features that I have ideas for, but I don't think they probably have very broad adoption. But I find myself using them in kind of all of my projects. Again, I don't make Laravel projects very often, so I don't always feel the pain of these things, or they're not always top of mind. But in the last year, I've been working on some other side projects, and I catch myself still trying to do some things that either aren't in Laravel or I would just do them a little bit different. So let me kind of map these out here and we'll see if we can at least build one of them, one or two of them today. Because again, some of these just are code from PRs, so I should just be able to pull the code in. So I like that little status helper to return HTTP status responses. HTTP status code only responses, right? I made that, I PR'd that, and I don't know why people are nuts about status codes. It's pretty funny. Tim McDonald and I were kind of cracking up about it because like, it's just funny. Anytime I make a PR about status codes, it's just like so polarized, and it's a lot of like chirp, 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 chirp. So anyway, I'm gonna put that in here because I liked it, of course, obviously. The other one is, the other one's kind of like this force create, and you've seen me work on this in a few live streams. So I think force create for models, I want to add that in here. We did that fallback for policies. That fallback for policies, I think we spiked on that in like 2 or 3 live streams ago. This is possible to build, and put in your apps and kind of formalize the way the PR would have formalized it. Now, again, it's not core, but there's a way to recreate this in current code. And I think, again, you could just throw a little trait on a class. So we'll save this one. I'll probably just rewatch part of my own live stream and collect that code up. So that'll be a pretty quick one. I think same with force create for models. Like both of these were kind of done before. There was another one. I can't think of it right now. But there was another one. Let's focus on the status helper today because I think a lot of that code exists, and then it'll give some beef here, and then I can go back and like clean up the test suite and stuff off stream, get this README file working, and this is actually like available and usable out there in the world. So let's do that. Let's focus on the status helper. As a helper, we're going to need to dump that in here. How do helpers work in? I guess they're just auto-loaded. They're just auto-loaded as part of the package, right? Yeah. So let's do this. Let's do a new file. We can do helpers.php. And no, don't ask me again. And let's just bring this into the fold. And we need to wrap this in all of like the fancy. So if we go out to the Laravel framework and we get into helpers, we need to wrap this in all like the fancy if the thing's not defined. Oh, that wasn't the right place. Where do they have helpers? Support foundation helpers. There we go. Wrong thing. Here we go. We need to wrap this in the fancy if not defined thing. So let's drop that into place. So we'll say if not defined, we'll call this status. And I think honestly all of this existed. So let's just go pull this off for a second. Let's go pull this off the old PR. So closed author JMac. There we are. It's like I've done this before. Here we go. Introduce status code. My hit ratio is pretty good. I mean, I'm not complaining that these don't get merged. This one was interesting to me. It was so lightweight. Like why not? Right? Look at this. Already all existed. Let's just copy this. Okay, let's review this just for a second. So what status code allows you to do, let's just look at my conversation. What status code allows you to do is like, in an ideal world, I think it'd be really cool to do this. Now, this, of course, is a pretty breaking change. It's a huge breaking change. Like right now, if you did this in your application, it works. It returns 201 as a string in the response body. The intricate, nuanced thing here is that you're returning an actual typed integer in PHP. The framework would now pick this up and instead return a status code. Now, I think that's pretty cool, especially if you're working with APIs. But I could see this being kind of a pretty nasty breaking change. So I left that aside. I think that's, to me, this is ideal state for a web framework, but I'm not going to touch that right now. Yeah, look at this. Hate. They hated it. So yeah, this is the basic usage. You return status 201, and then there's a Fluent API. You can return status created. These two are equal, right? Additional examples for all the different status codes. Now this works. This works right now. It's done. Basically all this is, as we can see in our code, is that it's just a wrapper for response no content. It's just a semantic, nice little Fluent, bit here. It's an expressive, just like Laravel. Like as I mentioned, toRoute. You can write toRoute as redirect route. Like it's the same exact thing, but it just reads nice, right? Return toRoute. Return status created. Like, I just think that reads pretty nice. It fits with Laravel's, nice human expressive, DX. So this is why I like it. Can you write it another way? Absolutely. Is it saving you much? Not much. But again, the argument is, so does toRoute. There's a dozen of these helpers already in the framework that, I think it fits, right? Okay, so yeah, let's finish up. Moving away from the old PR. This code works. Right now it's doing this with an anonymous class. Now I will say, for all the noise that was in the PR, the most noise was related around, the doc blocks not being there. So this would be difficult to kind of work with, right? You would need to know, like, okay, if code is null, you get a response. If it's not null, then you get, something else, right? So what would be good here is if you could actually say something like, status. Maybe it returns some kind of status class, right? So it returns like an HTTP status object, and that now lives in the app. And then I can put the same code over there instead of this anonymous class, but like, inside of there, maybe there's just a call method, right? The same exact thing. And that might give you some better typing, I think, right? I think it's going to be very hard to doc block that here where you get nice auto completion. So, and what we're talking about there, let's just back up a second. Let's see if we can fix that. I think that's worth fixing. Instead of kind of doing the anonymous inline class. That was just kind of me for fun, to be honest. I don't think I agree that's not the best code. So let's just touch example.php, just so we can see the type hinting in, or the auto completion built into an IDE like PHP Storm. So let me get into example.php, and there's some things we need to still wire up here. But if we do something like status, and let's do require vendor autoload, and we need to make sure that this is actually imported, right? So basically we need to go down to the autoload, and now we're saying files source helpers. I'm not a big fan that that's kind of in my PSR folder. I'm tempted to put it top level and or make like a bootstrap folder, but I don't know, that feels a little weird. I don't like that it's underneath the PSR4 autoloader, but it's okay. That's just me being kind of technical. Okay, so if we do status, we see here that this returns a response. If we put in 404, so let's just do this. Let's do variable, or well, result. Okay, so this knows if I click in based on the current type hint this knows that I'm HTTP response. It knows that. The IDE is auto-completing for me. Now, if I don't put that in, and I do something else, yeah, see, it still doesn't know. It doesn't know what this is. That's the tricky part. It still thinks it's the other thing. So let's see if we can clean that up. So this is HTTP status. So where can we put this? Where can we put this? Let's say it's under JMac additions support. Let's just put it under support. Let's create this class. All right, there it is. Let's move this. We can say return new HTTP status, HTTP status. So JMac additions support. All right, that should work. Now, if we go back here, I can throw call back in here. We can still keep all the dynamicy in call. Now, we may break that out at some point in time, but I don't think it's required right now. And let's just do this. For now, I could say something like at method. This is kind of like a facade. You can just at method the stuff. So we can say something like okay. And this is going to status okay, and then this ultimately returns this as well. Okay, so method okay. So theoretically, in our example, if we call this with null, instead of content, it's showing up okay now. I don't like that it's still showing content. I would have preferred it to say only okay here. I think that has to do with the fanciness that's happening here. My guess is PHP Storm can't. My guess is PHP Storm doesn't interpret that. It's kind of just treating this like a union type. I don't know if other IDEs can get that right or not. I've seen some things use this syntax, that's why I tried it. But this no longer directly throws. Yeah. It's acting like it's parsing that, but it's in reality it's kind of just treating it like a union type. I don't know. This works. Okay, let's go back and look at the actual code here. Let's fix this. Okay, so we've got create the constant if is defined constant. Okay, if it's not. There's another little bit here I actually want to do. I think there's some tweaking that could happen here. Let's go look at these Symfony Foundation responses. Do we get this? We don't. What are we actually using? We're referencing this stuff. Now the assumption is we're within a Laravel application, but I'm wondering if because I use it I should pull in this class. I think as a Laravel package, it's understood that you have reference to this stuff. But it's interesting. How does it know to get that? Illuminate. Oh, I think we're getting this because of, I think we're getting that because of Orchestra. I do think this probably needs to come in. Let's see what package we need to do to get this. HTTP foundation. All right, there's my answer. All right, we need to, let's lessen this to 0, because I think, if I remember right, Laravel 11 is 7.0. Now it's compatible with 7.2, but there's no reason we couldn't lower it. So let's go back to our little guy, and let's try to open up this response class inside of Symfony. Where are you? Let's get a fuller. Are you still not in here? Response? Where are you? Where are you, Symfony response? I thought we'd get that. Yeah, there it is. Okay. I just want to look at these codes. Here we go. Here's what we're pulling off. I think if you try to pass this a 300, part of me feels like if you're passing this at 300, we shouldn't allow it. Just, you know, again, as we're kind of grinding down and getting this all the way complete for a package, like I'm just thinking about usage. Part of me thinks you need to say something like constant. Oh, it has, okay, we already have constant. So then we could say something like if constant, oh, that's the constant's name. Okay. Let's say code equals constant. This is where we need tests. Constant that if code is greater than 300, greater than or equal to 300, and code is less than 400. So if it's in the 300 range, then we could say something like, runtime exception. You may, the status helper does not support redirection. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. All right, let's go back. Pint. All right, cool. Oh, is it messing? Let's go look at Pint. It's messing with our stuff. What did we change here? There's really, I'm gonna kill these. There's really no rules. Oops, vendor bin Pint. Yeah, okay, it's all the same. Yeah, let's just follow Laravel's code style. There's no reason to do anything else. It's a Laravel, there's a Laravel package. Let's just do what it does. Let's see if I can build out this method header real quick based on this. Let's just take this and try to just do some fudging here for a second and see if we can get what we get. So what we said, I mean, status codes aren't being changed that often, so I think this is probably okay. We could probably just do a crazy, well, I think we're gonna need multi-line select. So let's just get this going. So we could say star, and then we would say, get on the other side of that, get rid of all of this, put a method on it, come back here, we would say at method, and this is going to return an illuminate HTTP response, and then this needs to be, can I camel case these? Snake case to camel case, switch case. What do we say? Switch case, camel case. Yeah, there we go. I think we did it. Let's see if that's right. Let's take this up here, drop them in. Oh, so helpful. So helpful, PHP Storm. The first one did it, and the next one didn't. Okay, let's clean that up. All right, replace all. Oh, close enough. All right. Is this right? Oh yeah, we got 2 OKs now. Okay, so there you go. There's all of them. Here's our implementation. So we're just using magic PHP method. It gets the name of what you were trying to call. We snake case that, then uppercase it to turn it back into the foundation's constant name. If somehow you called this with a very strange method that's not in the doc block and whatever else, if I called this with JMac, it's going to throw an exception because the constant's not defined. So again, this is just basic PHP, native PHP functions here to test if the constant's defined. We know now that it's defined. Now we just want to make sure that it's not a 300 level status code. If it is, hey, we don't support redirection. Otherwise, return our thing. We can condense this now to code because we're already varring it off. And there you have it. I think this is pretty good. That's pretty good. Checkbox. There you go. You can now use these examples here. So is this right? Let's look. Method not allowed. Let's find method not allowed. Oh, not there. Let's find method not allowed. Method not allowed. There it is. And then do we have I am a teapot? Is that right? I am a teapot. Sweet. Okay. Here it is. So the biggest gripe in the comments was that, hey, it doesn't have completion. But now if we go look, and again, I could look into that doc block a little bit better to maybe see if we could do something where PHP Storm likes it. But we see we have the completion now and what the ultimate type is that it would return as well. Now, it'd be cool if it knew, like, I put in 404 here and now I get a little squiggly there, right? Because, I called it with a non-null thing, so like I shouldn't have access to I'm a teapot. But whatever, there is completion, so it's better. It's not awesome, but it's better. And you have this. And you have this, which you could use directly for something else if you wanted. I have no idea what, but if you wanted. I think the other thing I might do is like, there's kind of no reason. It's a pretty lightweight class, but there's no reason to like new it up every single time. So like the only other thing I would do is like, something where it was like this. Now this is, this is probably not necessary, and you could do this with the container as well, but I could say something like static class, new it up and return it. I could do something like that if you really wanted. I don't know exactly what that's quote unquote saving you, but like you could do that. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it because I like it and it's my package. Haha. All right, cool. Good. I think we did that one. Let's remove this example. Let's think about how to test this for just a minute. Let's think about how to test this. To test the status helper, we would write a test, of course, and then in this case, we don't really need orchestra or anything. Why is this squiggly? Didn't we run composer update? I don't know. I don't know why that's squiggly. Maybe they got a different name in 10.0. Again, I didn't look at it. I just kind of assumed they might have some different naming in that. So we'll check. But yeah, as far as a test, I think we could just go down and we could make 2 things. We could test this class directly, right? That's pretty straightforward. I mean, we would just write. Let's write that. Let's write a test for at least this class directly, and then I can write a test for the helper once orchestra is kind of not squiggly for whatever reason. So let's do that. Let's write a test for this. So I'm just going to go in. This is really just a unit test, to be honest. So I'm just going to say new file. This is going to be under, I'm just going to mirror my folder structure. So we're going to say support http status test. All right. And then it helps if you actually put PHP behind the file name. PHP. There you go. All right. And then let's do let's do that. And then namespace is tests, unit, support. That's good enough. And then final class HTTP status test extends test case. This is really just a PHP unit framework test case. And then do we need setup? Yeah, we could use setup. We could do setup for public function setup. Let's call parent setup, and then we'll say this subject is equal to HTTP status class. A new one of those. Let's give us some more breathing room here. All right, and then let's make subject. Let's declare property. Perfect. There's subject. All right, and then we'll say, do we want to get crazy and use a data provider here, or do we care? Do we care or do we not care? I don't know. It seems kind of silly to write a test for I want to write a test for every single method call you could do, but like, does it make sense to, I don't think so. I don't think so. We're going to say test, whoops. We're going to say test, and then, do I have a test case? Oh, there we go. I've got a test case. All right, let's do test case, and we'll say it returns response. It returns empty response with status code. All right. And then we would say this subject response would be equal to this subject, and then basically we'll say something like method, and we'll call that. And in our helper, we would get a string method and a code, an int code. And then what I would want to do is say this assert null. The actual is response content, yep. And then, yeah, that's all I need. And then this would be assert same on response content status would be code. So what we care about here is that we got an illuminate response back, right? We got a Laravel HTTP response back. It had no content, null in its content, and then its status code matched the status code of what we're about to build in the data provider. So let's clean this up, and let's make a, oh my goodness, let's make a data provider, and we'll just call this, HTTP, or we'll say this methods and status codes. Good enough for me. Create data provider. Okay, and let's go back to our friendly response. And let's just use this again, right? It worked pretty well the first time. So let's borrow this. Let's go back here. Let's dump this in here. And then what we need is to take that off. Let's just pull all of these. There's a lot of them. Now, the 300 level status codes are in here, but I'm not super worried about that right now. And then we can say that, or no, sorry, we need a comma here. We need to put that there, and this here, comma, end, get rid of you. Okay, cool. And then back to the front, and we need to string manipulation, repeat that. Okay, so we should now have all of the stuff. Now what I'm going to do is take this and bring in, strip this one down to the 300 level status codes, and methods and status codes. Okay, and then this one's really redirection methods. That's kind of all I care about. I don't even really care about the 300 part, to be honest, here. I just need all the names. Yeah, we don't even need the other half of this. We just need the names. All right, redirection methods. Those are going to throw an exception. These come out. There we go. Okay, so if we run pint and we run vendor bin php unit, you know what, the php unit config file is probably a little junky, so let's just do this. Okay, target illuminate contracts routing response is, oh, okay. It's actually, okay, so now I think we're gonna need to pull in illuminate HTTP is probably my guess. We're gonna have to pull some stuff in because we're not actually within, or our test case would need to extend orchestra. So then it loads in the framework. Then it boots the framework. That's probably what we need to do. This can't just extend this directly, I don't think. I think I'm gonna have to extend orchestra test bench test case. What's wrong now? All right, I think we're good. Let's try this again. Whoa, lots of failures. Okay, failed asserting that empty string is null. That's fair. That's fair. It's not actually a null response. It's an empty string. So we can say assert same. We would expect, because again, HTTP protocol, everything's a string. Everything's a string. You might get a number back, but it's a string. Okay, I think this will work. Boom. Sweet. Okay, so 54 tests, 108 assertions, what, 108 divided by 2, 54. So, 12 lines of code, and we actually truly have 54 methods of all the different HTTP status codes that are out there. So, sweet, that's working. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Why leave 301 method in the doc comment? I don't know, did I? I'll check. Add helper. Okay, cool. I think we're caught up on the chat. Let's keep going. Okay, let's get the exceptions being thrown. So let's just do something like, let's get our data provider for the 300 level exception. So we can say something like, this is redirection methods. And we would say it throws an exception for redirection codes, or for redirection methods, I guess we should say. All right. I'm just curious real quick before we proceed. Let me just var this off real quick. Let's do an add var. This is illuminate HTTP. I did not spell that right. Response. Wow. Illuminate. Is there like a no content? Empty is empty. What does empty do? Status. Nope, that's not it. That's interesting. I'm just curious if, oh, they have some codes in here. Look at this. Oh wait, no, it goes straight down to Symfony. Okay, it's a pass through for Symfony. Okay, I thought there might have been get content. I was just curious if, so Laravel actually uses get content. Okay, it transforms it. Is this used anywhere else? Whatever, I don't care that much. I don't care that much. I was curious if there was like another method we could use to see, but it's all right. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I think we're going to say this expect exception. We have a runtime exception class, and then we would expect exception message to be, what did we say? We said something like the status helper does not support redirection, or well, doesn't support it. You cannot use the status helper for redirection. Okay, this will probably explode. Yeah, because that's not what we say. We say you cannot use the status helper for redirection. The status helper does not. It's not that it doesn't support it. We support it. It is, well, we don't support. We chose not to support it, so you can't use it for that. That's not what it's intended for. So, so yeah, just tighten up the wording here to be a little more clear that like you cannot use the status helper for redirection. Great. Okay. And then the last thing is this. If we called this with just some crazy constant that's like not in, you know, not in there, we would expect kind of a similar thing. So we could say something like no data provider here, and then what do we check? Invalid status code method. Invalid status code method. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It throws an exception for invalid method. Okay, so what we can do, I mean, how crazy do you want to get, right? Like, do we want to faker data like these? I don't think we need all that crap. I think we could just say something like, you know, foobar, like it doesn't matter. We just care that you get something. So invalid status code method colon foobar. All right, let's try that. All right. Here's what I'm curious about. We snake, no, you have to call this properly. You have to call this properly. I think what I was trying to, and we should probably write a test for this. Let's write a test for this. Here, instead of me talking it out, let's write a test to demonstrate. It throws an exception for, let's call it improper, let's call it improper case. How about that? Let's say I am a teapot. That's not gonna work, right? So if I say something like, I'm a teapot, I think this would fail. Oh wait, we gotta put this up here, there you go. Yeah. So, even though PHP itself is case insensitive, this is not, because of its implementation. Because of its implementation. Now, do I like that? I don't know. As I say that, it's kind of one of those things where like, PHP is not case sensitive, but the code I've written is now case sensitive because of its internal implementation detail. That's probably not the best shareable code. That's okay if you want to enforce stuff like that in your app, but if you're sharing something with the world, that's not the most practical. Now, again, personally, I think if you, I don't know why you wouldn't case stuff the way it's intended to be cased, but again, PHP's loose on it, so this thing should probably be loose on it. So I'm gonna leave that open to the community to PR either, you know, an internal translation. You could just have an internal translation where you map the you know, you could very easily make like a translation method that's just an array map of both of them. And you could say lowercase that name. If it has a key, then it's this constant. Done. You don't even have to do like all this is defined constant stuff. You would just say, hey, if my mappings returned null, then throw this exception instead. So it wouldn't be a lot of work to make that. Again, this is my package. It's for me. So like I'm okay with its current implementation, but I think I'm leaving this test in here to kind of prove that we don't support kind of willy-nilly casing. Like you have to say I'm a teapot, the right way. So with the proper casing, I should say. So I'm going to leave this test in here. It passes. It looks good. I like it. Okay, so let's vendor bin pint this. I think we're good. Let's stop here. I think we're good. What else is in the chat? Love from South Africa. Hey, thank you. What's the data provider attribute for? Yeah, that's PHP. That's PHP unit. PHP unit 10 plus, I think, now does the attributes. I want to say 12 actually maybe requires them. I don't know. I would need to look. But I know 10 got a little more like that's the default, these attributes. So this data provider is just like the old school, at data provider annotation in your doc block. This just kind of formalizes it a bit better within PHP instead of being part of documentation. The last thing I want to do here is let's just add array and array. I'm going to use typing on these. Array. All right, cool. Again, I feel pretty good about this. Going back to, let's just put a bow on this for a second. So there needs to be another test, more of a feature test that calls this helper in the two different ways. The one way is to say, okay, I called it with a status code. I got back a response with that code. Same kind of thing, right? This in, this out. Very straightforward test. And then the other approach would be like, hey, I called this thing, without a code, and I got an instance of the HTTP status class, right? That's going to be enough here. Now, to have feature parity, and I can drive this out with tests, I actually need to restrict 300 level status codes. So to have feature parity, I actually need to put that same, throw in here as well, right? So yeah, no problem. I'll drive that out with tests. So I think that's the next thing to do. I'm not going to commit this now because I want to make sure, again, from the initial go, if someone wants to point at dev master and use this thing, like I want to make sure that it's tested, it looks good, whatever. So I'm not actually going to push this up just yet. I will whip it. So let's just do git add dot, git whip, and there it is. We'll go ahead and whip that. So I want to get Orchestra running correctly to write a test for the other helper to make sure it returns the right things, and then drive out that 300 level restriction that we added. And then I will push this up, get it on packages, and there's the first thing. So in the next stream, we can close that down. We don't need that sad day reminder of that sad day. So yeah, let's go back to our README. I'll clean this up, but yeah, I think in the next stream I'll do this, because again, the code is actually in a PR. I just need to change it and wrap it into a trait. So that'll be next week's stream. And then we're just gonna keep going down the line here. And I'll try to remember what the other one or two things were. So anyway, thanks everyone for joining live. See you next Wednesday.